The moment I read the explicit texts confirming my partner's year-long affair, I didn't cry or scream. I put his phone back exactly where I found it, and in that instant, I decided to become a better liar than him, staying by his side only until I had secretly saved enough of his money to start my new life without him. It's a brutal way to think about someone you once loved, I know. My world, the carefully curated world of Ellie and Ryan, graphic designer and project manager, the perfect couple with the cute apartment and the 5-year plan, had just fractured into a million pieces. But my heart didn't pound, it didn't race. It just settled into a state of cold, heavy certainty. Confronting him would lead to a dramatic, messy breakup where I would be the one forced to leave, with nothing but a suitcase and a broken heart. I would have to crawl to my parents or beg to sleep on a friend's couch, a 28-year-old failure. Number he had taken my trust, my love, my last year. I would not let him take my future, too. So how did I end up here, so cold and calculated? Let's start from the beginning. 5 years ago, I met Ryan at a friend's rooftop party. It was one of those perfect summer evenings in the city. I was 23, fresh out of design school and working a junior position at a small firm. I was full of creative energy but felt a little lost in the grand scheme of things. Ryan was 25, working in construction management, and he had a confidence that I found incredibly magnetic. He wasn't arrogant, just self-assured. He walked over to me, introduced himself, and we spent the next 3 hours talking, ignoring everyone else at the party. We talked about everything, our ambitions, our families, our shared love for hiking and terrible sci-fi movies. He was attentive. He listened. When I talked about my design work, his eyes didn't glaze over. He asked thoughtful questions. He made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt before. He told me he wanted to build things that lasted, and I felt a pang of recognition. I wanted that too, though my medium was pixels and branding guides, not steel and concrete. That night, he walked me to my tiny studio apartment, and before he left, he asked for my number. He didn't play games. He texted me the next morning to ask me on a proper date. That initial attentiveness, that decisiveness, was the foundation of what I fell for. He seemed like a man who knew what he wanted, and for a while, it seemed like what he wanted was me. Our first year was a blur of discovery. We explored every hiking trail within a 2-hour drive of the city. We spent Sundays at flea markets, hunting for vintage furniture for our hypothetical future home. He was romantic in small, meaningful ways. He'd leave a coffee on my nightstand before he left for an early job site. He'd remember a passing comment I made about a book I wanted to read, and it would show up on my pillow a week later. He was my biggest cheerleader, encouraging me to build my portfolio and apply for better jobs. I fell in love with him deeply and completely. He felt like my partner in every sense of the word. He felt like home. About a year into our relationship, we decided to move in together. It felt like the natural next step. We found a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood we both loved, close enough to the city center, but with enough green space to feel like a retreat. We spent weeks painting the walls, assembling furniture, and debating the perfect spot for the oversized armchair we'd found at that flea market. It was a time filled with shared goals and a sense of building a life. We were a team. Looking back now with the painful clarity of hindsight, the cracks were there from the beginning. I just refused to see them. Once we settled into a routine, his attentiveness began to wane, but so subtly that I could explain it away. He'd say he was going out with his work friends, which was fine, but he'd stop texting me to let me know he'd be late. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. to find his side of the bed empty, only for him to stumble in an hour later, full of apologies about losing track of time. I chalked it up to him being a social guy, to the pressures of his job. I didn't want to be the nagging girlfriend who tracked his every move. I trusted him. The communication, once the bedrock of our connection, became inconsistent. He'd have his phone face down on the table more often. Texts would go unanswered for hours, followed by a casual, "Sorry, got swamped at work." I told myself this was just the comfortable phase of a long-term relationship. The honeymoon period was over. This was real life. Real life was messy and inconsistent. Real life meant you didn't need to be in constant contact, but a small, quiet part of me felt a shift. The team I felt, we were started to feel more like two individuals sharing a space. He was still loving, still my Ryan, but there was a new distance, an emotional opacity that hadn't been there before. I ignored it, because acknowledging it would mean acknowledging that the perfect life we were building might have a faulty foundation. And now, here I was, 4 years later, in that same apartment, the lie of it all exposed. The weeks after that Tuesday night were the hardest of my life. I became an actress. I'd wake up in the morning, roll over, and smile at the man who was betraying me. "Good morning," I'd say, and my voice wouldn't even shake. I'd ask about his day. I'd listen to his stories about work, about his friends, all the while knowing there was a whole other narrative running parallel to ours, a narrative I was not a part of. Every "I love you" from him felt like a stone in my gut. Every touch was a violation, but I held it together. My performance was flawless. The first practical step was opening a new bank account. I did it online, during my lunch break at work, at a bank he had no affiliation with. I chose the paperless statement option, directing everything to a new email address I created just for this purpose. I called it my Freedom Fund. That first deposit was only $100, moved from my personal checking account, but it felt monumental. It was the first brick in the wall of my new life. I started taking on freelance graphic design work with a ferocity I hadn't had before. Every evening after Ryan was asleep, I'd be on my laptop in the living room, designing logos for small businesses, creating social media templates for influencers, taking any gig I could find. When he'd ask what I was working on, I'd give him a vague answer. Just a small side project to build my portfolio. He never questioned it. He was too preoccupied with his own secrets to pay much attention to mine. The extra money started flowing into my Freedom Fund. I became obsessed with watching the balance grow. $200, $500, $1,000. Each milestone was a silent victory. I cut my personal expenses down to the bone. No more morning lattes. I packed my lunch every single day. I canceled subscription boxes I'd forgotten I even had. I stopped buying new clothes, telling myself, and Ryan, if he asked, that I was saving up for a future vacation for us. The irony was corrosive. He loved the idea. "That's great, babe. Maybe we can go to Italy next summer," he'd say, kissing my forehead. I would just smile and nod, my secret burning a hole in my heart. About a month into my secret plan, I knew I couldn't do it alone. The weight of the deception was crushing me. I needed an ally. I needed my best friend, Maya. We met for dinner at a cheap noodle place I'd found, one of my new budget-friendly spots. I could barely eat. I just pushed the food around my bowl until she finally put her chopsticks down and looked at me. "Ellie, what's going on? You've been off for weeks." The dam broke. I told her everything. The phone, the texts, the woman's name, the year-long affair, the secret bank account, the freelance work, my entire, sordid plan. She listened patiently, her expression shifting from shock to anger to a deep, profound sadness for me. When I was done, she reached across the table and took my hand. "I am so sorry, Elle. He's a monster. I'm going to kill him." "Don't," I said, my voice flat. "It's not worth it." "Of course it's not. But what you're doing? Are you sure about this?" she asked, her brow furrowed with concern. "Living with him? Pretending every day, Ellie, that's going to destroy you." "What's the alternative, Maya?" I shot back, a bit more harshly than I intended. "I leave with nothing? I move back in with my parents? He wins. He gets to keep his life, this apartment, everything, and I'm the one who has to start from zero. I'm using the time I have left with him to secure my own future. He owes me that much." "I get it, I do," she said softly. "But isn't it, I don't know, dishonest? You're lying to him too. You're staying with him under false pretenses. What if he finds out?" "Then he finds out," I said, a wave of cold determination washing over me. "What's he going to do? Break up with me? He's already done that in every way but name. He just hasn't had the decency to tell me. This isn't about being moral anymore, Maya. This is about survival." She squeezed my hand. "Okay, I'm with you. Whatever you need. A place to store stuff, help moving, a shoulder to cry on. I'm here, but please, be careful." Having Maya in my corner was like a pressure valve being released. The secret was still mine, but it wasn't mine alone anymore. It was manageable. My conversation with Maya made me think about all the times I had chosen to be naive. There was one incident, about 2 years ago, that stood out with glaring clarity now. Ryan had a work conference out of town. It was just for a weekend. He called me on Friday night, sounding happy and a little tipsy from the company dinner. On Saturday, however, he was a ghost. My texts went unanswered. My calls went straight to voicemail. I spent the entire day in a state of low-grade panic. imagining the worst. He finally called me late Saturday night, close to midnight. "Hey babe, so sorry," he slurred. "My phone died and we all went out after the sessions today. Just got back to the hotel. It was a crazy day." His explanation was plausible. It was just plausible enough. I wanted to believe him so badly that I didn't push. I didn't ask for details. I just said, "Oh, okay. I was worried. I'm glad you're safe." I chose to trust him. I chose to ignore the knot of unease in my stomach. Now I replayed that conversation over and over in my head. Who was he with? Where did he really go? The name of the woman from the texts echoed in my mind. Had it been her? Had their affair started even earlier than I thought? The past was no longer a source of comfort. It was a minefield of red flags I had willingly walked past, blindfolded by love. My naivety then was the reason for my ruthlessness now. I would not make the same mistake twice. I would not choose to be blind ever again. The strain of my double life began to affect my work. I was exhausted from the late-night freelance gigs and the constant emotional toll of my performance. At my day job, I found it hard to concentrate. My designs were competent, but they lacked the spark they once had. I was distracted in meetings, my mind drifting to my Freedom Fund balance or replaying a suspicious text I'd seen on Ryan's phone screen the night before. One afternoon, my creative director, a sharp woman named Sarah, called me into her office. "Ellie, is everything all right?" she asked, her tone more concerned than accusatory. "Your work has been a little flat lately. It's not like you. You're one of my most innovative designers." I felt a flush of panic. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I've just had a lot on my mind. Personal stuff." "I understand," she said. "But this is a deadline-driven environment. I need you to be present. If you need to take a day or two, just let me know. But when you're here, I need you here." "I understand," I repeated, feeling a sense of shame. "It won't happen again. I'll refocus." I walked out of her office with my heart pounding. This was another consequence I hadn't fully anticipated. My escape plan was threatening the very career I needed to fund it. The interaction, however, had the opposite of its intended effect. Instead of buckling, I hardened my resolve. I couldn't afford to lose my job. I needed it more than ever. I started compartmentalizing with brutal efficiency. From 9 to 5, I was a graphic designer. I put all my energy into my work, forcing myself to be creative, to be present. Lunch breaks were for my secret life, scanning apartment listings online, checking my secret bank account, texting Maya with updates. Evenings were for my freelance work. The time I spent with Ryan was a performance. I was living 4 separate lives, and the exhaustion was immense, but my savings account was growing. $3,000, $4,000. I had a target in mind, $10,000. It seemed like an impossible number, but it was the amount I calculated I'd need for a security deposit, first month's rent on a decent 1-bedroom apartment, basic furniture, and a 3-month emergency fund. It was my magic number for freedom. As my secret savings grew, Ryan became bolder, almost careless in his deception. It was as if he sensed my emotional withdrawal, however well I tried to hide it, and it gave him license to be less cautious. He'd come home late more frequently, offering flimsy excuses that were almost insulting in their lack of effort. "Had to work late," he'd mumble, not even making eye contact. "Went for a drink with the guys," was another common refrain. One evening, he came home with a faint scent of a woman's perfume on his shirt. I pretended not to notice. I just took the shirt from him and threw it in the laundry hamper, a cold fury rising in my throat. Maintaining the facade became a daily struggle against my own impulses. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to confront him with the evidence and watch his world crumble the way mine had. But I would take a deep breath and remember my goal. $10,000. Every time he lied to my face, it was like another deposit in my emotional bank account of resolve. Every careless act was another reason to see my plan through to the end. The hardest part was the physical intimacy. He would still reach for me at night, and I would have to let him. I would close my eyes and think about my new apartment. I would think about the feeling of locking a door that was only mine. I would think about the peace of sleeping in a bed that wasn't tainted by his betrayal. It was a profound violation, a recurring trauma I was willingly subjecting myself to. I wrestled with the morality of it constantly. Was I using him? Yes. Was I deceiving him? Absolutely. But he had deceived me first. He had broken the contract of our relationship in the most fundamental way. My actions felt like a necessary evil, a form of self-preservation in a war he had started. This wasn't about morality anymore. It was about restitution. He was unwittingly paying reparations for the emotional and financial damage he had caused. The pain of the present was made infinitely sharper by the memory of the promises of the past. Just 1 year ago, on our 4th anniversary, we had a serious talk about our future. We were at our favorite Italian restaurant, the one we went to for special occasions. He reached across the table and took my hand. "Ellie," he said, his eyes sincere, "I can't imagine my life without you. I've been thinking a lot about what's next for us." My heart swelled with hope. This was it. "I know we've talked about it in vague terms," he continued, "but I want you to know I'm serious. I want marriage. I want to buy a house with you. I want to build a real future, a family. I've even been looking at rings." Tears welled in my eyes. I was so happy, so full of love for this man who was promising me forever. We spent the rest of the dinner planning our imaginary life together, the kind of house we'd buy, whether we'd get a dog first, how we'd combine our finances for a down payment. He promised me everything I had ever wanted. He promised me commitment. He promised me a future. Now, remembering that conversation was like swallowing glass. Every word was a lie. He was likely sleeping with her then, too. Had he gone from her bed to our anniversary dinner? The thought was nauseating. That beautiful memory was now the most painful one of all. It was the memory I would summon whenever my resolve wavered. It was the memory that fueled my late-night work sessions and my disciplined saving. He didn't just cheat on me, he sold me a fraudulent future, and I had bought it, heart and soul. As the months wore on, Maya's concern grew. She saw the toll it was taking on me. I was thinner, my eyes had a permanent shadow of exhaustion beneath them, and I had lost the easy laugh that used to define me. "Ellie, you have to get out of there," she pleaded during one of our weekly check-in calls. "You have enough money now to get a room somewhere, to figure it out. You can stay with me. Just leave him. This is killing you." "I'm almost there, Maya," I insisted, my voice weary. "I'm at $8,000. I just need a little more time. I don't want to stay with you. I love you. But this is something I have to do on my own. I cannot leave one dependent situation just to enter another, even with my best friend. The whole point of this is to stand on my own 2 feet, completely. I need a safety net. What if I lose my job? What if there are unexpected expenses? I can't risk it." "I understand the independence thing, I really do," she said, her voice full of empathy. "But he's getting more reckless. What if he brings her to your apartment? What if you come home and she's there? You need to have a line." "The line is $10,000, Ingari," I said, my voice firm. "That's the line. I'm close. Just help me stay discreet for a little longer, please." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Okay, Elle," she finally sighed. "Okay, but the second you're ready, you call me. I'll be there with a moving truck if you need one." Her reluctant support was my lifeline. She didn't fully agree with my methods, but she understood my motivation, and that was enough. 3 months after that conversation, it happened. I logged into my secret bank account and saw the number. $10,152.34. I had done it. I stared at the screen for a full 5 minutes, a wave of disbelief, an overwhelming relief washing over me. I had reached my goal. It was time. The next 2 weeks were a blur of quiet, frantic preparation. I had already been scouring apartment listings, so I knew which buildings I was interested in. I took a half day off work, telling my boss I had a dentist appointment and went to see 3 apartments. The second one was perfect. It was smaller than the one I shared with Ryan, but it had large windows, a clean, modern kitchen, and a small balcony. It was a space that felt like it could be mine. I filled out the application on the spot, submitted my pristine financial records, bolstered by my freelance income, and was approved the next day. I signed the lease electronically that night, while Ryan was in the other room watching sports. The date on the lease was for the first of the following month, just 10 days away. The final phase of my plan began, the slow, methodical extraction of my life from our shared space. Maya was my co-conspirator. I started bringing small things to work with me in my tote bag, a few books, sentimental knickknacks, important documents, and passing them to her during our lunch breaks. She stored them in her spare room. One weekend, when Ryan went on a fishing trip with the guys, Maya and I staged a major operation. We packed up all my out-of-season clothes, extra shoes, personal records, and anything else we thought he wouldn't notice was missing. We filled her car with boxes and drove them to a small storage unit I had rented for 1 month. By the time Ryan came home from his trip, half of my belongings were already gone. He didn't notice a thing. As the move-out day approached, I felt a strange mixture of emotions. There was the soaring empowerment, the thrill of my impending freedom, but there was also a heavy cloak of guilt. For all his faults, for his profound betrayal, I had still deceived him. I had lived a lie for nearly 6 months. I had smiled at him, slept next to him, and let him believe we were a team, all while plotting my departure. Was I any better than him? The question haunted me in the quiet moments. But then I would remember the text messages, the lies, the stolen year of my life, and the guilt would recede, replaced by a cold, hard sense of justice. The day I left was a Saturday. Ryan told me he was going to be gone all day, helping a friend move. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of irony. It was the perfect opportunity. As soon as his car pulled out of the driveway, I called Maya. "It's time," I said. She was there within 30 minutes with her brother's pickup truck. We worked with a silent, focused efficiency. We packed my remaining clothes, my toiletries, my laptop, and work equipment, the art I had bought, the lamp I loved. We stripped my side of the closet and my drawers until they were bare. The apartment began to feel hollow, half empty. It looked like what it was, the home of a relationship that had been hollowed out from the inside. Within 3 hours, everything that was mine was loaded into the truck. I stood in the doorway of the empty bedroom and looked around one last time. It didn't feel sad. It just felt finished. I walked to the kitchen counter, the same counter where my world had fallen apart 6 months earlier. I took a piece of paper and a pen. My hand was steady. I didn't write a long, angry letter. There was no need for dramatics. I just wrote 2 simple sentences. "Ryan, I know about her. I've known for months. Goodbye, Ellie." I folded the note and placed it in the center of the counter, right where he had left his phone that night. I took my key off my keychain and set it on top of the note. Then I walked out the door for the last time, not looking back. I didn't slam it. I just pulled it shut, the quiet click echoing the finality of my decision. As Maya drove us away, I didn't cry. I felt a profound, exhilarating sense of peace. I had done it. I had walked away, but I hadn't just walked away. I had walked away on my terms, with my head held high and my future in my own hands. I had reclaimed my independence, one secret dollar at a time. It's been a month now. I'm settled in my new apartment. The afternoon is bright, and the space is filled with light. My furniture is a mishmash of new, affordable pieces and the things I managed to take with me, but it's mine. The bills that come in the mail have only my name on them. The silence in the evenings is peaceful, not lonely. I'm still doing freelance work, but now it's not out of desperation. It's to save for things I want, like a real vacation or a better couch. I'm starting to feel like myself again, the creative, confident woman I was, before my trust was eroded, piece by piece. I never heard from Ryan directly. Maya told me she heard through a mutual friend that he was stunned, then angry, then pathetic. He apparently told people I was cold and manipulative. Maybe he's right. I blocked his number the day I left. I have no interest in hearing his excuses or his rage. His chapter in my life is closed. I feel empowered. I feel strong. I feel free. But there's a small, persistent voice in the back of my mind that still wonders. My method was effective, but was it right? I lied and manipulated to escape a liar and a manipulator. I used his financial stability, which was built on the foundation of our shared life, to fund my escape from him. I stayed and pretended to love a man I despised, all for my own security. I know why I did it, and I believe it was my only path to a truly independent future, to avoid being a victim. But I still have to ask. So, Reddit, tell me, am I the asshole?